Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We are doing a little bit of a DIY project today out here in the shop, and it is in regards to this thing. Okay, this is the High-Tech Diamond All You Need 8-inch flat lap, and by all accounts, I would say this is one of the most popular lapidary machines out there in people's shops and clubhouses today. This is a pretty common machine. If you're not familiar, you turn the dial, this guy starts spinning, and you can grind and polish your rocks on it. However, what is the purpose here? Okay, a lot of people get these because they want to make cabochons, or they want to cut a rock in half and polish like each sides of the half. So think like a thunder egg, right? Those are all perfectly good, acceptable uses for this. And you learn a lot of skills in that process of cutting and polishing rocks, making cabochons. When it comes to the cabochon side of things, in the past 5 years, I have seen 2 people out in the wild wearing stone jewelry. And when I say out in the wild, I mean like not at a rock show or rock club or rock-related gathering of people, just like you're, out and about in life. Most cabochons, I think, end up in jewelry drawers and bins and never see the light of day. So what else can you do? Maybe you're not into the cutting and polishing of halves. Understandable. I do think in that process, though, of learning, you can develop skills that otherwise would be really hard. So we're going to be taking this thing that a lot of people are using for cabochons and cutting and polishing of halves. We're going to be making this accessory for it today. We're going to be going over this. You can make this yourself for very, very cheap. And the goal of all of this is going to be for you to start doing some very basic Intarsia work. These are a couple of the very basic, extremely basic Intarsia pieces that I have created. Let me be extremely clear here. This is not a video on how to make basic Intarsia, intricate Intarsia, or anything like that. This is purely about the High-Tech Diamond All You Need flat lap fence that I came up with that allows for things like this to be created. I believe this here is 16 stones joined together in what is going to appear to be entirely seamless, and that is the whole point here. Typically in the world of lapidary, you have flat and you have domed, and that is kind of the entry for most people. Well, this allows you to do very intricate joining of small stones to create pieces just like what you are seeing here. This is Bill Boggs's book, Introduction to Stone Intarsia. I would highly recommend it. It is $20, and all of the proceeds, I believe, go to the William Holland School of Lapidary, which is an excellent organization. I'll put links down to this book, down to their school, and Bill Boggs also has a YouTube channel, which you should definitely go check out. He's a very, very smart guy, and I am attempting to learn Intarsia from him, from this book, and in that process, I had to come up with a couple of things myself. Now, there are Intarsia machines. There is also the world of Commesso Pietrodora. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Last I checked, I'm not Italian. I live in Utah. So we will be looking at this basic stuff here, which was quite popular in the 1990s and early 2000s, of joining small stones together to create intricate designs, which could be simply a display of one's skill as a lapidary, or be made into cabochons, although, like I said earlier, how many times do you see people wearing cabochons these days? So this is what we are building, and I will set this up on the flat lap because I feel like it's going to make a lot more sense. However, the basics of this is that it is all aluminum, structural aluminum. Structural aluminum means that you have these nice tight right angles and it's not curved at all. And this is not welded, we're bolted together, and it's pretty basic. I will provide measurements here at the end of this video on how to cut this up, but it can be made for very cheap by simply visiting your local steel yard and picking through their scrap bins. If you do not have one of those, well, you can always go to Home Depot, but you're going to be buying 36-inch lengths as the minimum, and that can add up for sure. This here is my flat lap, all set up kind of where it typically is, and my water supply, which goes just like that. So this is very purposefully designed and bolted together like this for one very specific reason, and it is to fit in there just like that, okay? This is how it sets up, and my water supply kind of goes here in this little notch where it can drip through this little notch. By itself, if you push into this, it will move around, so we do have to use a couple of clamps, and we'll get this all nice and clamped in, and you can see what this looks like. I think this is probably the very best means of securing it. Now, we're not going to clamp it very tight. It is simply to just kind of prevent it from moving at all once we start pushing on it, because that's really the goal here, is to have a fixed fence that we can work on and grind a stone to a perfect 90-degree, as well as I have this piece here which I made, which allows us to do a perfect 45. The way you would now use this, now that this is all set up, is as an example here. Let's say we want this stone to be the center piece, and we want to frame it or do a border and then a frame and then a backing. It is, of course, a little thick. In the world of Intarsia, simple Intarsia, we go thinner than thick, but now this allows us to get a perfect 90-degree angle on this edge so that when you glue other stones to it, it is two 90s meeting. Because what will happen is if you try to freehand this without a guide, and I know some people say they can do that, and you might just be way more talented than me. Here's the thing. Getting even just a little off will compound over time. Is that 90 that you're trying to freehand actually an 88 or a 92? Depending if you want to tip it back and forth, let's say. It's a little too much like trying to draw a perfect circle. I don't believe you're going to really accomplish it. You're going to spend way more time trying to perfect grinding a perfect 90 like this than you would just having a nice little fence. And the same thing goes with sliding in on a 45. There's some fun things that you can do when sliding in on a 45. So you can make little facets in things, little meats, okay? Just like this. And that's kind of cool. And if you start thinking about all the different ways that you could potentially integrate that into your lapidary skills toolbox, well, now with a couple of bucks of aluminum, you're going to have this thing up and going here. So now you can kind of see here we have these nice, clean, sharp edges that if we wanted to glue another piece of stone to it, well, it's a nice, perfect 90-degree angle. And we're going to check that, and we're going to check this as well. This is a machinist's square. And you see there is no light there. We are perfectly squared up the sides to the front and back, and that is the goal of the fence, okay? Doesn't matter where we go on here, we're going to be squared up. And in this scenario of wanting to chamfer some edges, we can use our little 45 here. The reason this is designed as 3 pieces, or well, in my case, 4 pieces, but we're primarily going to talk about the 90-degree fence, is so that you can make adjustments that will account for any variation in the rotomolding of the flat lap. We don't want this to be 88 or 92 degrees. We want it to be dead nuts, like perfect 90, right? And these castings do have slight variation in them. They're not intended to be flawless. So, since we have these 3 pieces here, you can shim these. So if you have to shim the fence front or back, you can do so by putting like a strip of aluminum in here and sandwich it in, like, you know, from like a soda can or something, like super thin, like a piece of tape even, and get that fence to pitch the exact way that you want it to. And that's the beauty of the bolted together design. You'll get it right. And mine is a perfect 90 degrees. Overall, I feel like this is very much so a winning design for a fence. So let's go over some measurements here, and you can play it by ear a little bit. But the top of the fence is 14.5 inches. And this is a 2-inch by 1-inch angle aluminum. And you're going to want some extra, because you can see here these bottom pieces are just an extension of that angle aluminum. So these are 2 inches. So what did I say? 14.5. That is 15.5, 16.5, 17.5, 18.5. Basically, just go get 2 feet. Go get 2 feet and cut it down to whatever you want. These square pieces here are exactly 2 inches square, and pretty simple, right? You can cut this aluminum with woodworking tools. You can use a wood cutting chop saw. You can use hand tools. And then the hardware is, what are these? These are like 3-inch bolts. 3-inch bolts with washers will get the job done for you. And that leaves the perfect little like 1/16 of an inch gap between the bottom of this fence and the flat lap disc. And of course, if you have variation in your flat lap, you could add washers, you could add spacers that get this thing kind of pitched one way or another. But go with the structural aluminum, so that you have nice, sharp right angles to work with coming from the extrusion factory. Now my 45, this would be a little bit harder for you to make. I cut this on my metal cutting bandsaw, and it is held in place with a stainless steel bolt, and that just allows me to, you know, slide in there. Improvements to this, I think this is a great design because it allows that adjustability for the different laps. Because it is 2 inches, it would kind of crowd the backside of where you'd want water to come in on your lap. Keep in mind, we want the water to come right here. And with the 2-inch angle aluminum, you're kind of like coming in a little far back, and you'd get like a little dry spot right here, which is not what we want. So drilling the hole right there and putting your little water dripper right there gets you right into the middle of the wheel. If you already own one of those flat laps, or you're contemplating getting one, I would definitely plan some time and budget, I guess, as small as it may be, to build something like this. This is not commercially available on any means. This is a free design from me to you, so that you can start, I guess, expanding what you're capable of doing with your machines, as well as just getting maybe away from pumping out shiny rocks and thinking more about lapidary art. And I would say the stuff that you will learn out of Bill's book definitely qualifies as lapidary art. I do want to show you something which you've probably never seen before, and it is incredible what you can potentially do by the careful joining and gluing together of stones. And everything I'm about to show you is going to be coming out of this book here. Everything that you see here is stone, carefully shaped and, well, glued together. How incredible is this? Look at this beautiful artwork. What if we, as lapidary artists, got away from the jewelry and started working on masterpieces? What are the types of things that we would be able to create if this was the angle of, if this was the focus? They are so beautifully done. They simply look like paintings. The craftsmanship, the fitment is incredible. The fitment is absolutely incredible. And as this book progresses through history, we get to see additional works, and obviously with time, they become nicer and nicer. I'll put a link down to this book below as well. I mean, do you like a serving platter that looks like that? Like, look at that stonework. It almost doesn't look real until you start to really focus your eyes on individual little stones. And of course, these are relatively large pieces. I'm not going to spoil everything for you in case you want to buy this or check it out at your local library. Lastly, let's look at Introduction to Lapidary. Now, this book has several photos in it of more, well, modern interpretations of this and what can potentially be accomplished. And it is nothing short of absolutely gorgeous. A lot of these were showcased in the American Stone Masters CD-ROM, which is also slightly available through the Internet Wayback Machine. I have a full copy of it that at some point in the future I would like to make publicly available in some way, since everybody involved in it has since passed away, and why let this type of thing be lost to time? This is kind of just the start here. You might also notice right there, I have an Intarsia machine, a dedicated machine for kind of what I just showed you. However, it's not really practical for everybody to have a dedicated machine for this until you really kind of know that you like it. I so happen to have a Al Sisona Intarsia machine, which will be featured in a future video. If you've made it this far and you're not already subscribed, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, give me a thumbs up. And if you're able to support this project on a financial level, you can do so by heading on over to Patreon. There'll be links down below. We have a lot of fun over there. You get to watch these videos early and ad-free, as well as we do a monthly giveaway. We have a great community chat going, and it's super, super awesome. Everybody else, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video.